Welcome to Muy Local. It's our first episode tonight. Very happy to have Allen Sanford here with us today. Allen is the producer of the BeachLife Festival and many other cool businesses here in the South Bay. So we thought, what better guest to get us started than Allen? So Allen, thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely.
What I'd like to do is just very quickly kind of run through your bio, your background. Grew up here in the South Bay in Palos Verdes.
I did.
Went to Peninsula High School.
I did, born and raised.
Baseball player.
Baseball player, soccer player, football until high school, and then surf team. We were the first surf team on the hill.
Nice. Santa Clara University.
Yep.
Philosophy major.
Yes.
Odd choice.
Well, not if you come from an accounting family and have two accountant brothers and a banker dad, all very numbers oriented. I was the youngest, so I was exactly the opposite.
And then you still are an avid philosophy student, correct?
I like understanding how people think, yes. I love that.
It's very interesting.
Never gets old.
And then you were able to, after school, travel quite a bit, including coastal Australia. But the surf club aspect, in a social club in King Harbor and Redondo Beach, when people here in the United States hear surf club, they tend to think surfing.
Yes.
And so that's kind of an American connotation of the term. What does it mean in this context to you?
Yeah, Americans can be quite literal. I studied philosophy for a year under this guy in Wollongong, Australia when I was 18. I traveled surfing and I would go to each surf town and then I would see this little cool place right on the beach. Wow, what is that? Every little town and every little city had a surf club, right? And it was a literal surf club down there. It was right on the beach. It was the best real estate. And then every Friday, 12 packs of VB, and kids running around having a great time. It was really the community that I loved in the surf club. And as we're building the California Surf Club, it's really metaphoric, not literal. There's no surf spots in the harbor. We're not trying to be pretentious with it, but the spirit of those surf clubs is something that I'm after.
Very cool. And I think for anybody who's been to Australia and experienced that really jumps out at them. I've heard a lot of people say, wow, that's a great idea because I've been to Australia, I've experienced that, and that'd be fantastic to have here. So then after school, you come back to the South Bay, you start to work at a little bar called Patrick Malloy's.
Yes.
And what was your job title?
Busser.
I was busboy at Patrick Malloy's.
Yeah, I was going to go to law school. I took the exam, did well on it, and was just working summertime as a busboy. That time, Malloy's was kind of new. The whole Hermosa was pier, right? Remember when we were young, you did not want to hit Hermosa Pier.
Right.
It was biker town.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny, the two places my mom would disallow us from going after dark would be either pier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Redondo Pier.
Same.
Never go to that arcade. And Hermosa Pier, do not go to the pier. Right? And we had bikes, so there was no e-bikes back then.
So of course, where did you go? You went to the pier.
Yeah.
So you start out as a busboy, and then in a very short time, you somehow talk the owner into bringing you on as a manager. You convince him that you're capable of managing this place, despite the fact you have absolutely zero experience. How did that happen?
I think it was just an early lesson in leverage. He had nothing to lose, and I told him I would work for free. So I said, hey, let me work for free. If I don't do a good job, you don't even need to fire me. My dad always taught me to be irreplaceable. That's the only time you have any value. I worked super hard, figured it out, and in like 6-8 months, we started to become partners. We ended up opening Union Cattle together. Great guy, Fred Hahn, no longer with us, but was an absolute blast and a huge learning opportunity.
And so then from there, after Union Cattle, you ended up with St. Rock.
Before St. Rock, I opened a Union Cattle in Pasadena. I went to the Mentawais surfing. I got dengue fever. Came home, I lost 18 pounds and I was mentally not all there. For some reason thought I should open another restaurant. So I bought a restaurant with my then partners in Pasadena. Decided I hated Pasadena. That's contributed to me never leaving the South Bay because I drove to Pasadena like 5,000 times. And then that's when I got into St. Rock. And I really got into St. Rock because I grew up with my parents going to the Strand and they saw everybody. They saw Nina Simone, they saw Miles Davis. And then we get to be older and we got nothing, right? We got Club Caprice, which I think went under right around when I was 21 or 22. I just really wanted music back in the South Bay, and so I thought, St. Rock,
Right.
Right, so I had my eye on the Picture House, and the rest is history.
And so then you learn a lot about booking bands, obviously there, and then you kind of parlay that into the Sunset Concert Series in Hermosa.
I played in a band in college, right? So I played baseball in college for 2 years, and then I realized I wasn't going to go pro. So I quit, grew long hair, joined a band. Best decision I ever made. So I knew a lot of the artists and band world, and then at Malloy's, I was booking a lot of those bands. So Slightly Stupid, Miles and Kyle played down there for $50. A guy named Ika Mouse, who was massive when I was growing up. So by the time St. Rock came around, I had already kind of been in that scene for a while. So it wasn't too hard to get into, but it was definitely hard to start a scene in the South Bay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Sunset Concert Series were wildly popular. How many years did you produce those concerts?
So I produced those for a decade. Steve Burrell, the then city manager, came to me and said, hey, we did a band called Revolution. Things didn't go so well. If you were there, you knew what happened.
I was there.
It was like an absolute disaster for a city. Basically said, hey, we're going to cancel the whole thing unless you do it. And so I took it on. As a love affair. It was so fun for a decade to do it. Built it up, made it better every year, and then did it right around from 2008 to 2000, right before COVID actually, which is when I started the Beach Life.
Right. And so obviously segue there, you leave the Sunset Concert Series, maybe not on the greatest term. Go next door, sit down with Mayor Bill Brand, and I know he became a very close friend of yours. And he recounted a story recently that in that initial meeting, you sat down and told him the idea, you shared your vision, and he said, this sounds like a great idea, just let me know how I can stay out of your way. And I thought that was just a very refreshing thing to hear from a politician, very unusual in this day and age. So do you remember it that way? And what led you to believe that it was even possible to put on a music festival of that scale in the South Bay?
I don't even think I went through that logic. I just thought this would be fun. And I have a disease called shiny objectitis, which I see shiny objects and I just go after them. And then I think later, maybe that wasn't the best idea. A lot of things happened in conjunction. One was the city of Hermosa decided to change directions. I had always been pushing the city to do more there. And if you look back at old city records, they actually thought about it when Burrell was there. I think Amex had wanted to do Sheryl Crow one year. They almost did it. So we always talked about—
On the beach.
Yeah, it's the only city that owns their own sand, right? So they have a unique position. That didn't work out. I was a little bit remiss about that, and I'd happened to go to a show at the Hollywood Bowl to see Paul Simon. It took me 2.5 hours to get up there. I was angry in my seat, and I was just like, man, I'm so done going to the Hollywood Bowl, but where else are you going to see great artists? And that was really the moment where I said, oh man, I'm going to go talk to Bill. At the same time, Redondo was going through its painful episode of litigation, and I thought they could use a shot in the arm of positivity. So I said, well, I'll give it a try. And I'd heard great things about Bill, but at that time I didn't know him at all. Had a conversation with him, sat down, and the rest is, kind of a little folklore story of, I really didn't expect it. He just said, how can I get out of the way?
Yeah.
So
wow.
It was pretty cool.
And so then how long was it from that initial conversation until you produced the first BeachLife Festival?
I think it was like 8 months.
Wow.
It really wasn't long. I hadn't thought through it.
And obviously
total.
You'd never produced anything anywhere near on that scale.
No, but I had done a lot of production in the festival space with a tech company called Liveless that I owned, that I started with my partner Rob. So I had been around festivals, and I'm a student of learning. So I watch. I wasn't very nervous about doing it.
And so now we're, 5 years down the road?
7 festivals down the road, yeah.
And I think the general consensus, and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke, but maybe the coolest thing that's ever happened in the South Bay. So how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think that there's still room to grow? Did it live up to your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations?
For me, it's my family business. So my wife is there, my daughter Annika's there. I'm just really running a family business that I love to run. I'm my own worst critic, so it's never good enough. If you do see me at the festival, I'll be like, down tucking something in or looking at it. I'm obsessed with detail. I think Redondo Beach really has an opportunity. I think the beach life has an opportunity, and I don't even think we've scratched the surface.
Well, on some level, you have to be somewhat pleased with what it has become, though.
Yeah, I put together a list a little while ago, and I thought it would be cool over a beer on a Friday to just write down every artist that we've had. That was pretty powerful to go, wow, there's like 500, not 500, about 250 artists, of some stature that have played Redondo, Redondo now.
Right.
So, yeah, there's moments of satisfaction for sure.
So I get it that you don't want to say that you've hit your goal yet, makes sense, but it's been very successful by any objective standard, and then that has kind of led to the creation of the California Surf Club, which I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically you're saying, okay, now we want to lead this beach life all year round as opposed to just 2 festivals a year, and can we have a home where we do that year round? What exactly was behind that thought process, and if you just want to tell us in your own words how you define what the California Surf Club is, because I know a lot of people are asking right now.
It's a continuation of a really simple thesis, which is, do people like living the same lifestyle I live? I'm really good at living the beach life. I'm really good at waking up and having coffee. I'm really good at going and walking on the beach. I love surfing, I love skating, I love every style around it. And so when I started BeachLife, the thesis was, I think there's a lot of people that like this too. There's just, nobody's doing it. And I could never understand that, right? I could never understand why people weren't focused on it. And so based on the success of BeachLife, which I think has a lot to do with the artists, let's be honest. But I think there's a culture component to it. And then these 2 buildings came up with the lack of progress down there. I just saw an opportunity to go, well, if people like living the beach life 3 days a year, probably like living it every day, right? And it doesn't have to be such a rager, right? It can just be kind of a continuous thing. And then there's a lot of cool parts about beach life that aren't partying, community, values. And again, life has a certain way of weaving its way into your heart, but one of the things I ended up doing was building all those parklets.
Right.
And that was like a real lesson in philanthropy for me. Doing stuff without self-gain isn't always a bad thing, right? There's something cool about community. And I was, a lot of people came up and go, man, you're building your competitors' parklets, like you're competing against yourself. And at that point, that wasn't even going through my head. So, and I'm getting older, I got a daughter, that stuff's becoming a lot more important to me. And I think the California Surf Club is a continuation of that. It's a place to call home away from home. And then it's just a place to be comfortable without having to go to a restaurant, to have a meal or to have a good time.
Absolutely. And then I know I'm getting a lot of questions about it walking around town. So social club, but then there are many different aspects. Obviously, with your background, there's gonna be a lot of live music. There's also a health and wellness component. It's right on the water, so there's obviously gonna be water sports and all of that. Is there anything else that jumps out at you or that you think will be an important part of that project?
I think nothing's off limits as long as it's beach life. So we all have to work. Nice to have a place to work. It's nice to have a place to meet, right? Casual place to meet. We all have fun. That's an easy one. Live music's an easy one. We all need to be healthy, right? If you want to surf, you got to be healthy. Right. So we, the beach life for me, there's an attention to active living and lifestyle. And then I have a real thirst for information, right? That's the other thing. Like I said this the other day, I feel like nobody tells the world when they see cool. Everybody's too cool to tell the world when they see cool rather than be like, damn, that's cool. And I love listening to people. I love learning about new things. And so I think that's a big piece of the puzzle at the Surf Club is just to have fun stuff that is, that's interesting at the same time.
Separate project, but that's taking place at the same time. It was called the BeachLife Kitchen, now changed to BeachLife Grotto. Really nice, higher end restaurant in the Riviera Village. Tell us a little bit about that, where that stands.
The growth of BeachLife, we're growing it socially and we're growing it from a food and beverage perspective. It happens to be one of my strong points with being in restaurants for so long. It doesn't hurt that I tend to build businesses that I want, and I go to the Riviera all the time, and ever since the Admiral Risty went out, there's not a whole lot of fish places. I called Nick Riera the other day. His grandmother was Millie Riera. Talk about some old school South Bay history. So I used to go to that restaurant with my brothers and my dad as a little kid. I came across like an old sign and it had Grotto on it.
Yeah.
And I just loved the name. And so literally I called Nick and asked him if it was okay, just out of respect. And so yeah, we've got the the BeachLife Grotto coming. And then we've got a little general store upstairs that's gonna focus on surf club and beach life retail, all in one sentence.
Well, I thank you for coming in and chatting with us today. And I would just say on behalf of everybody in the South Bay, I really appreciate what you've created. And I think you have a lot of cool things coming. And it's really interesting to hear you say how you're doing things that you like to do. You're living that beach lifestyle. And like, who would have thought that that could become a business?
Yeah.
Right? Living the way we like to live.
To be able to focus on this lifestyle rather than insurance or selling staples is, I'll take it every day.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.